What's up guys, welcome back to a new Dying Light 2 video. In this one I'm going to be touching on a popular theory that many people in the community have, and I saw quite a few comments on my last video even about this. Now this of course is the theory that Matt is the bad guy in some way, whatever way. Some people have more involved theories than others, but a lot of people simply will just say Matt is going to betray us or he is the bad guy. Now what I'm going to do with that generalization is expand upon what really could have happened in the demo here and explain to you how Matt really could be the bad guy. So we're going to start off with Frank getting shot, and if you listen closely you can hear that the bullet comes from the right side of your ear to the left side of your ear, and it's pretty clear that Frank is getting shot from quite a distance.
You so sure about that?
Definitely none of the renegades or anyone on the ground level shot him, and if you aren't necessarily convinced that's the case, maybe you think it's just a trick of the ear, which I think is ridiculous. But just to further give you some sort of explanation, I guess, you notice how right when Aiden looks over the balcony, everyone jumps backwards. Peacekeepers, they jump to alert. The renegades are alert. They're like, what's going on here? It certainly doesn't look like anyone on the ground level shot him. And then we can see Matt here going over to Frank and holding him. Skipping down to the part where we actually have dialogue with Matt here. He says something pretty interesting. When Aiden asks what happened, Matt replies, "Those damn renegades shot him."
What happened?
What happened? Those fucking renegades shot him.
So right off the bat, we can see Matt is definitely lying here, giving Aiden the false impression that the renegades are behind this, when that could easily be not the case. It could be a renegade sniper or whoever shot him from a distance. Doesn't necessarily have to be a sniper, but whoever shot Frank, it could be a renegade, but it definitely was not anyone on the ground level. And just in my opinion, I don't think it was a renegade at all. Just based on how everyone on the ground level jumped around, renegades looked like they weren't expecting it at all. Also important to mention how Frank is calling out to Aiden, obviously wants to say something, and Matt kind of just cuts him off and forces Aiden on the way to follow the truck.
Where were you? Hey, Aiden, hold still. Hey, Aiden, catch that truck, or you would never get onto that island.
Notice what he said there. He said island. That's going to be something I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. Just remember how he says you'll never get onto that island. So right here, once again, pay attention to the dialogue. Aiden, once he spots the truck, he says, "I have the truck in sight." And he says, "I'll get them for this, Matt." Matt then responds, "Just worry about the water. That's what matters."
That's the Renegade's truck.
I have it. I'll get them for this, Matt.
Just keep your cool, kid. Remember, what matters is the water.
So we can kind of see how this is really progressing along, how Matt planning this idea that the renegades shot Frank, even though that's probably not the case, how that's really ruining this whole situation for Aiden here because he has a misinterpretation of what actually happened.
Yeah, I should talk to the colonel.
The time for talk is over. Frank's dead.
Now skipping ahead to when Aiden confronts the colonel, we see the colonel kind of confused, "Where's Frank?" And then he says that your man shot him.
You saw it happen? You saw my man shoot?
Oh, Matt did.
Matt.
After that, we have Aiden saying he's going to turn on the pumps because the city needs water. And the colonel is saying, "We can't get any water from here. They tricked us." Now, whoever they is, we have no idea, obviously. But Matt is very quick to jump in and say, "It doesn't matter. Turn on the pumps. Don't listen to him."
Water. You can't turn on the water from here. They played us, don't you understand?
Don't listen to him. Turn on the pump.
Then the colonel tells us that Matt's real motive is to have him dead. He wants you to open the doors and let his butchers in. And then he says, "You want water for the city? I know how to get it." And he says, "You gotta trust me."
You do know what he wants, right? He wants you to kill me, open the doors and let his butchers in. You want water for the city? I know how to get it, but you've got to trust me.
For fuck's sake, he killed Frank.
Also, we see Matt come in mid-conversation accusing the colonel of killing Frank, when we all know that it most likely wasn't a renegade who killed Frank. And you can really see how Matt twisted this one thing from the beginning of the demo, saying that a renegade killed Frank, obviously giving Aiden a misunderstanding of what actually happened. You can see how he really played Aiden into this whole situation. This whole situation was supposed to be a peaceful meeting between the renegades, Frank, Matt, and Juan. Matt and Juan being the leading officers of the peacekeepers and scavengers. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting, and Matt really twisted this thing into Aiden infiltrating the castle, turning on the pumps, allowing the peacekeepers to rush the castle, and ultimately kill the Colonel. Now, if you think back about when I said remember about the island, now we all know what actually happens when the pumps turn on. Aiden at this point still thinks it's going to give water to the city, and he's deciding on whether to trust the Colonel or not. What the pumps actually do is drain the area underneath the castle, and what a lot of people don't understand, I think, is the fact that at the end of the demo, we see the Peacekeepers actually rushing the castle. And the Peacekeepers are rushing the castle from the area we just drained. So we actually, by turning on the pumps, helped the Peacekeepers rush the castle, which would be, as the Colonel is telling us, Matt's main motive to rush the castle and kill him. We also see at the end where the narrator says the Colonel was right, there was indeed a plot against him. And it's really convenient that right after that, we see a bunch of Peacekeepers storming right through the area we just drained and into the Colonel's castle.
The Colonel was right. There really was a plot against him. But only he knew the area was flooded for a reason.
So really, going back to who actually killed Frank, whether it was an operation led by Matt or somebody else that Matt had no idea about, Matt clearly took that situation and manipulated Aiden to a crisp. We first saw Matt tell Aiden that the Renegades killed Frank, even though we know that's not the case, and even if it wasn't anyone on the ground. It was an unknown sniper, could have been anyone. Matt made that up on the fly. After the Renegades already left, so no one could argue that the Renegades were getting out of there because they didn't know what was happening. Matt then shoves Aiden to go chase the truck before Frank could even say anything to him, and he was trying to say something to him. And then during the whole conversation that Aiden is having with the Colonel, Matt is butting in, saying things like Frank got killed by the Colonel. You know, he's pulling on your heartstrings the whole time, manipulating you into thinking that the Renegades are the bad guy, just so that Aiden turns on the pumps. And then we see ultimately the Peacekeepers rushing in. And then at the end, we hear the narrator say there was indeed a plot against him. And then we see the Peacekeepers rushing in. Do you think that was really a coincidence? This whole thing was orchestrated beautifully by Matt. That was very beautiful, no matter how evil it was. But it is tough to see it being done to your character, the person you're going to be playing. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. At the end of the day, that is just an opinion. I mean, there's a lot of facts in here as well. But I think it is definitely heavily possible that what I just described there, where Matt is playing Aiden like a puppet, I think it's for sure what happened. So yeah, as always, thank you guys for listening and watching. And like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Dying Light 2 videos in the future. And I'll see you in the next one.